Our first Memorial Day ceremony. Now thank you. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Lance Ashworth. I'm president of a preservation group known as the Friends of the Fishkill Supply Depot. And this burial ground that we're at, as well as the Van Wyck Homestead, during the time of the Revolution, were part of a static military base that was here in Fishkill that you don't read about much in history books or hear about much on the internet. And the reason is because during the Revolution, the military base served as a supply and logistical operation. There was no battle that took place here. There were no skirmishes. And so the function of the military base was rather boring in terms of what the public might think about the Revolution. But I think we know, and now or you're going to find out, or you know, that what took place here in Fishkill was as important or more important than other facets of the Revolution. If but for Fishkill, the Army would have not had ammunition and horses and food and boats and carriages and all the things, all the supplies and other equipment that's needed to fight a war. And this was unique in the sense that, unlike Saratoga or unlike other battles, let's say Yorktown, this base was a static base. And so during the 7.5 years of the Revolution that it was in existence, it was literally staffed by thousands of soldiers and civilians who were supporting the Continental Congress. And you can imagine that over that length of time, given the conditions, given the harsh winters in Fishkill, and given that men who were wounded in battles outside of Fishkill were brought here to be treated, that there were a number of deaths along the way. And as a function of those deaths and the number of those deaths, here at the Fishkill Supply Depot arose a burial ground where the soldiers and the other casualties of war were buried. And we're standing right here on it, okay? This area in particular is sacred to us because in 2007, the archaeological study that was commissioned to once and for all determine if the burial ground was here disclosed that there are 7 bodies right in this area. Just 2 weeks ago, additional archaeological study was done, and an additional 3 new bodies were found. And I think that proves beyond the records, beyond the stories in the local population here, that this burial ground did in fact exist. It exists now, and more so than ever, since we have concrete proof that it exists in terms of actual bones that have been exposed, we want to save it once and for all. And so that's why our group, the Friends of the Fishkill Supply Depot, in conjunction with its partners, the Fishkill Historical Society, the 5th New York Regimental Reenactors, the 6th Connecticut Regimental Reenactors, we put on events like this to ensure that no one forgets. You know, this is Memorial Day. People across the country are celebrating their heroes. Here in Fishkill, we're part of the very first heroes that brought our country into existence. And even though Memorial Day didn't exist back in the 1780s, certainly we can use it today to reflect on and think about our first soldiers. Now, as part of our group's preservation effort, what we've tried to do is to get in contact with the different landowners in this area who owned pieces of land that the military base sat on during the Revolution. Okay? The Fishkill Supply Depot, at its greatest extent, encompassed over 70 acres. And it was right in this low-lying area that's all right here, south of 84, along the Route 9 corridor. And General Washington picked this spot not randomly. He picked it with some careful consideration, because at the time, the British Army, the main part of the British Army, was down toward New York City, and Washington decided that Fishkill would be a good point because it was close access to the Hudson River. So any supplies or anything that came out of Fishkill could be brought easily to the river and moved by boat. This was also the site where the principal route running east-west came through. The old Route 52 was a Revolutionary War route, and vestiges of it run toward Boston. So with parts of his army in Boston, parts of his army down south, Washington needed a central location for his supply and logistics function. The final reason he picked this spot is because with the mountain chain ending here in Fishkill, it provided a natural barrier so that if the British ever decided to move north and attack the Continental Army or try to attack the supply base here in Fishkill, they would get caught up in the passes in the mountains, and the first Patriots could easily rain artillery down on them. So Fishkill became critically important. Of the 70 original acres, though, it's now a jigsaw puzzle in terms of individual parcels of land. The McDonald's sits on one piece of the supply depot. In fact, it sits where the barracks, the main barracks, were for the troops. The vacant Duchess Mall site is part of the Fishkill Supply Depot, all the way down to where the golf course is, and certainly up this way. This particular piece of land that we're standing on is about 10.5 acres, and it's more important to our group in terms of preservation than any other piece. Not only because of this burial ground, but as some of you have seen when you've come out here and done some work with us as volunteers, is if we move northbound toward the Hess station, there are significant ruins left over from the Revolution, foundations of buildings, ruts where carriages brought the supplies in and out. Other artifacts that you'll find virtually nowhere else in terms of the Revolution. And so we're on a time capsule, and so we put most of our focus on this piece right here. If we had time and additional resources, we would try to save the other pieces, but this one is the most sacred, and so we appreciate everybody coming out today. Now, to make our preservation efforts and our argument to save this land even more compelling, what our group has done is launch a research effort under the belief that the more we know about what took place here, the more we can understand the value of the burial ground, and the greater our chances are that if the general public knew about what took place here and knew what's in this ground, that they wouldn't stand for commercial development, and they wouldn't stand for this land being disrupted. And so late last year, actually before late last year, we embarked upon a concerted effort to understand what took place at the Fishkill Supply Depot and to attempt to identify the names of the soldiers that are buried right here. Now, this is a challenge because this is a burial ground that has no headstones, has no records. It's not kept like a traditional military cemetery would be, but we know the men are here. And so what we've done is members of our group have literally gone back to the Revolutionary War records, the individual muster rolls, the daily muster rolls of the units that served in Fishkill, and have looked at them line by line, reading the names, trying to determine the daily statuses of the individual soldiers. And you'd be surprised if you look at the records, some of them say sick in Fishkill Hospital. Some of them say died in Fishkill. And so we know from the historical records that it supports the archaeology. And so we've begun to catalog those. Initially we had about 20 names. Then we, by March of this year, we had about 31 names. But today I'm extremely pleased to announce that as of today we have 60 names identified of soldiers who are right here in this burial ground. Now, we don't know where they are. We don't know which bodies correspond to which, but with some hard work and additional research and some additional outreach to try to find the ancestors, think about if we could save this burial ground and then do some testing, we might be able to actually connect the men in the ground with the names that we found. And wouldn't that be wonderful? So So we're relying on continued research, we're relying on outreach events. We want once and for all the public here in Fishkill and Dutchess County, New York State, and the nation to know that this is sacred ground and that we won't stand for it being developed. And so what we'd like to do today, we appreciate everybody's patience. We'd like to read the 60 names, okay, and we have them organized by states. Now our research has not yet included every single of the 13 colonies, every single colony of the 13 colonies. We've only had the research to do, the resources to do about 6 states, I think it is. But in those 6 states, we have 60 names. And so we'd like to read those today in tribute of our first heroes. And then the 5th in New York is gonna help continue on with the ceremony in a like a traditional volley. Okay, so I am going to invite our county legislator for this area, Allison McAvery, District 16, Fishkill, Beacon, and East Fishkill, to come up. Oh, she's here already. How about a round of applause for her? And together, she and I are going to read the names. You want to give your microphone a test?
Massachusetts?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go first. I want you all to bear with me because 60 names will take a while. But I think it underscores the scope of what we're trying to undertake here. You know, we're just at 60 names. We've done hard, deep dive research on 6 states. Can you imagine when we get to the rest of the colonies, including colonies that are in close proximity to New York, how many names we might find? I'm confident we're going to be well over 100 very quickly. And so I guess that means that ceremonies like this will take longer. But that's all right, that's what we're here for. Okay. So, to the formal part of our Memorial Day ceremony 2013, honoring the men and women of the Fishkill Supply Depot. For the state of Connecticut, Thomas Allen, Samuel A. Boardman, Gideon Chapin, Jack Congo, Uziel Cook, James Dodge, Jesse Earl, Gift Freeman, Jesse Higgins, David Johnson, Nathaniel Johnson, John Mosier, Zachary Prince, Enos Prindell, Joseph Rogers, William Rulinson, Israel Shipman, Christopher Vent, and Hezekiah Webb. If we can have the Connecticut flag placed, please. And is there someone from the public who's holding the state of Connecticut?
Here he is, over here.
3 by 5?
Right here.
Go ahead. Okay, continuing on, and I should note that this regiment is a little unique in the sense that it was one that was chartered by the Continental Congress, so it didn't belong to a certain state. It really belonged to what was the first federal government, okay? And this was Congress's own Hazen 2nd Canadian Regiment. David Fellows and Francois Pelland. Okay, could we have the individual with the flag for the Congress come up? We don't have one. We don't have one. Next time. Okay. Delaware, none have been identified yet from Delaware. And none for Georgia, and none for Maine. Right. Maryland. We still have flags for those? Okay, we're going to place a flag for Delaware. All right, how about the individual for Georgia? How about the state flag for Georgia? And sir, for Maine?